kochani!
Hello kochani!
We're with Ryan to make another video, and the whole video is going to be in English.
Finally! I don't have to humiliate myself.
Are you happy?
Yes.
I'm so happy we're together, because he's the perfect one to make a video about how to learn English.
That is correct, because there's a little fact that most people don't know about me. When I first moved to Poland, I was working as an English teacher.
I remember that.
Yeah.
When we met each other, you told me that you had some students back then, and I'm gonna ask you right now, did you like the job? Did you enjoy it? Tell the truth.
Okay, there were two sides to it. When you first move to Poland as an American guy, teaching English is really like the only opportunity available. So I liked the fact that I was lucky enough to have a job and that I could stay in Poland thanks to having a job.
Yeah.
And through that job, I met amazing people and learned a lot from them. I probably learned more from them than they learned from me. And so I wouldn't like to continue being an English teacher today, but I'm happy that I had the experience.
I think you met your wife through the lessons?
Very true. My wife actually, I don't know, she gets a little bit embarrassed when I tell this story because I tell people that she picked me up through the internet. So sorry, Kasia, if you're going to be mad for me telling that to Karolina's audience. But yeah, there was a forum called Tandem. And Tandem is a really cool way that you could actually meet someone from another country and learn the language. So I wanted to learn Polish, she wanted to learn English.
So you exchanged?
We exchanged.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, we exchanged so much that now we have 2 kids.
Oh, that's cool.
It was a good tandem.
So I want to talk about how to learn English, because my viewers ask me the question all the time. And last time I made a video in English with Tommy from Israel.
Yeah.
And most of them, they were very happy to hear me talking in English. But some of them were like, oh, your English is not so perfect. You were bragging about your English before. You don't have an accent. You're using simple words. And I was like, I think I have a good English because I can understand everything and I can communicate. That's the true meaning of good English or in general.
Sure.
That's my opinion. I would like to tell you my story, how I learned. Because my dad was pushing me since I was like 6 or 7. He told me, you have to learn English, and he's fluent. And he was like, I'm not going to teach you. I don't want you to have the same accent. I want you to learn by yourself. We had lessons when we were like 7 in the 1st grade. Yeah. I think it was like singing songs and alphabet and stuff like that. So I've learned a lot through songs. Then I had lessons in my school, like every child has. I had some classes outside school with a very good teacher, and he was very, very proper, you know, proper English. He wasn't crazy about Americans. He was only about, you have to do it like proper way, British accent, British pronunciation, British words and stuff like that. So I've learned a lot of grammar from him. But I was so afraid to talk. I wasn't talking. I understood everything he was telling me, but I didn't talk. When I was in a high school, he sent me to this Irish school. It was run by an Irish woman. She hated Polish people.
That's not good.
Yeah, we weren't allowed to use Polish language at all. It was just English. And I remember this day because it was 9/11, the first day in the school.
Really?
That's why I remember. And it was the day when I started talking. Because she forced us. You have to speak to communicate. You can't sit down in the class when everybody's talking, your teacher is asking you questions, and you're just sitting there and you're too afraid to talk. You're shy. That's when I broke my, my wall, my barrier, and I started to talk. I don't know how. When I went to French class, to Spanish class, I was talking from the beginning. And then I discovered YouTube, and then I met you. So now we can talk, we can meet almost every day and talk English, which is great for me because I have somebody to talk to, and on YouTube I'm watching English and American videos. That's the way how I've learned English.
I want to go on the record, first of all, for any haters that criticize Karolina's English. It's awesome.
It's not perfect.
Really, really good. We always speak in English.
Yeah,
actually,
we can communicate very well. So
that's like our common language.
Yeah.
And you took the really right approach. When I worked as an English teacher, I saw that most kids never had the opportunity to speak.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit silly. Their parents were saying, you have to do the book, Ryan, you have to focus on grammar. And yeah, grammar's okay. but it's not really functional. So like to learn to swim, you have to jump into the pool, and there's not really any other way. But what's maybe even more important than that, I think, is having an actual motivation to speak, a reason or a purpose. Maybe your reason is for your profession in the future. Maybe your reason is like to meet a nice boy outside of Poland, or maybe you want to watch American movies. If you have that motivation, you can totally learn. I don't really like video games, so it's hard for me to sit here and encourage people to play. The best students I had were people who were into video games, because they would sit up all night.
They had to talk.
Play this game in English, and they would be talking to other people from all over the world in English, and they would just learn like fluently. And so yeah, there's video games, and also music is really, really important if you're into that. But finding a native, finding a friend who you can really speak with, that will make all the difference in the entire world. Because inside of having a friend, you actually have the teacher, you actually have the person who has the experience, and you have the motivation, a friend who you need to communicate with.
I'm going to talk about the barriers. I think we as Poles, we have a lot of barriers to talk. Studying at school, usually with the Polish teachers, not with native speakers. We have a lot of insecurities.
Yeah, insecurities.
Because we think we are going to be judged. When we go abroad, we're going to ask something, use a wrong word or whatever, and somebody's going to judge us. Oh, you're not pronouncing right.
If you're talking about going abroad, most countries are filled with immigrants. Most countries have people from other countries. So in my childhood, I was exposed to Polish people all over the place. And I didn't quite care about their specific accent. Sure, I could tell that, okay, that's a Polish person or that's a Mexican person. But it didn't matter at all, because we were all Americans. And if we had a purpose to speak, we had that common language. And so like if you go to another country, you shouldn't be afraid to speak, because most probably the people from that country met many of foreigners, and not a big deal at all. DG helped us prepare the camera. That was really cool of him. And he pointed out that I'm terribly red looking.
You have to explain.
Well, I want to explain. It kind of goes into the story. I just came back from Qatar, so I was in the Middle East. Basically, everyone there spoke English as their second language. And they did it quite well, but they did it with a very thick Arab accent. And they didn't care about their accent. They weren't going to apologize. If you go to Germany, I really can't think of many Germans I met who don't speak English without a German accent. And they don't apologize. And actually, I love the way a German accent sounds. It's very charming to me. So like the Polish accent, Americans hear it as something a little bit like harder maybe than the German one. But in most contexts, especially if it's a girl speaking with that accent, we find it to be very charming and also flattering, that the person is speaking in English.
I think the same thing happens to you when you speak Polish, and everybody's like, oh, so cute because he has an American accent.
First time we ever made a video together, then it was like, oh, that's cute. But I was younger, and now I'm like 34 years old. When I speak in Polish, I just feel like limited, and that's why on YouTube I stopped speaking Polish, except for maybe with you sometimes. Because I feel like I have too much to say, and I know Polish people understand English better than I speak Polish, so if I really want to connect with them at this point, that's probably the best way. But it's funny, because speaking Polish as a foreigner, even when people understand you, sometimes they're so shocked that they can't understand you. Do you know what I mean? Like, like they can't accept, because they never heard Polish with a funny accent. So for me, it can be very difficult in some moments, but other moments are very nice, because most people are happy.
I think everybody's happy that you're trying and you've learned Polish. That's very hard, and I've heard that it's probably one of the most complicated languages in the world, because our grammar is crappy.
And the moment I understood how crazy Polish grammar is, I honestly thought about quitting the shows, quitting the radio, and quitting Polish. And leaving, because I thought there's no way that I would learn all of these przypadki, is that what it's called?
Czasy.
Oh my goodness, it was too much. It was too much. So, and in English, you don't have to deal with all that. English is easy.
So let's go back to how to learn English. I'm gonna give some advice, and you're gonna correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
So my first advice is music. When I was a kid, I used to buy Bravo magazine, which I don't know if they still have it.
They do.
They have, I know, but if they still have a song in the back with the translation. So I was reading the translation, and because I need to understand what my favorite singers were singing about. So then I discovered that some of the songs are really stupid, but some of them are really helpful for teenagers. So that's the first thing, to listen to music and translate, you know, to know some more words.
Yeah. And
to watch videos on YouTube and to watch movies, maybe in the beginning subtitles, but then without the subtitles. The more you watch your favorite movies without the subtitles, it's better.
There's no question.
Yeah.
I listened to the band Myslowiec a lot, and that actually helped open me to Polish language. Music is a beautiful way to connect not only with the language, but other cultures of the people who speak that language. And I think if you listen to American music, you could actually understand a lot about who we really are.
Yeah.
Versus what you find from corporations like McDonald's or Starbucks or whatever.
Yeah.
So it says a lot about
Americans.
Yeah, so it's music is good.
And the other point is try to find some friends online. If you don't have a friend like I do, try to find somebody from America, from England or other countries, no matter, and try to break the barrier and try to speak to them. Not only on Facebook, you know, to write messages, but also to call him or her on Skype, and that could be really helpful, but because then you can travel, visit them.
Yeah, traveling, friends. I think the best thing about having a good friend is the motivation that you will have to speak in their language, because the truth is that if you didn't know me in English, you wouldn't know me. I've been lucky enough to also speak with you in Polish to the point that, you know, I can really feel who you truly are in your native language. So
what they should take from the classes, you know, the regular classes, because they usually hate the language because they hate the teacher, they hate the tests, things like this. But
the practical aspects of the lesson. So when you're given the opportunity to speak, I mean, if the teacher says, Dorota, please stand up and read the book. Don't say, I don't want to read. Take that as an opportunity to practice, to utilize your language, because that's what the teacher is giving you. It's not a punishment that he calls on you or she calls on you. It's actually like
privilege.
Privilege.
In some way.
No, I wouldn't have agreed with that when I was 16.
Yeah,
but you know, I'm an old guy now, so I can say
you can say wise things.
That it's better to learn, you know, because otherwise you're just wasting the time. You have to be there anyway, so you might as well speak. So here's a really novel idea that you could consider doing with your friends at school or outside of school. Try speaking English with them. For one, it could provide you a very cool little secret language that your parents might not know. So, you know, you can talk about your first date or anything that you don't want them to hear. And the other thing is that you move, so you get exercise. And the more exercise you have, the more fit you become. And so it's just about speaking, speaking, speaking.
And what about lessons outside of school? So, I mean, when they are looking for a good native speaker.
There are good Polish teachers. So if you find a good Polish teacher, definitely try it out. And if you want practical lessons, the Polish teacher will understand the practical aspects of English better than the native speaker. Most native speakers did not have an education
to be a teacher.
I studied art photography, so it was never in my plans to be a teacher. So what I could give people was a practical ability. So look for a native speaker who will provoke you, who will move you, make you speak, ask you questions about your life, and take actual interest in you. But if he comes over to your house, is basically sitting there and is not motivated to make you speak, it's not worth your time or money. So when I was in that position, I could ask a billion questions to like lawyers and doctors and pilots and like you name it. I met them. So
but you're like that. You wanted to learn about our culture. That's why you ask questions.
I am in love with your culture. So I had a lot of questions and more questions every day.
Mam nadzieję, że film Wam się podobał. Jeżeli tak, zostawcie kciuki w górę i koniecznie wpadajcie na kanał Ryana. Podlinkuję na dole. Ostatnio nagrał świetny film. Bardzo mi się podobał film, kiedy odwiedziłeś Ukrainę. Bardzo mi się podobał ten film, kiedy rozmawiał z Ukraińcami o tym, jak żyją w czasie wojny. To jest niesamowicie ciekawy film i Wam to podlinkuję. i koniecznie odwiedźcie go także na Instagramie, także wszystkie linki znajdziecie na dole. Dziękuję Ci bardzo za udział
bardzo,
w odcinku. Mam nadzieję, że Wam się podobało, że trochę pogadaliśmy po angielsku. Oczywiście na dole mieliście napisy, że dla tych, którzy nie nadążali albo nie rozumieli, ale mam nadzieję, że wszystko było w miarę zrozumiałe i że rady Wam się przydały. Napiszcie, jakie Wy macie doświadczenia z językiem angielskim, czy lubicie język angielski, czy nie, czy lubicie swoich nauczycieli, jak to jest w Waszej szkole, czy macie lekcje poza szkołą, czy nie. No i będziemy czytać Wasze komentarze.
Dzięki bardzo.
Thank you. Do zobaczenia, pa pa!